introduced our today's chief guest, Randy Geise, and who is the senior healthcare facility planner for Cleveland Clinic. He has 23 years of healthcare planning experience at Cleveland Clinic. I need not to tell about what kind of setup infrastructure Cleveland Clinic has got, rated always for last several years by US News as a #2 healthcare facility as a hospital, and in several departments it is ranked as a #1 in US. So it talks everything. Now, Randy has academically, he has done BS degree in industrial technology from University of Wisconsin. And before this position, what he holds today, he has done programming and planning for hundreds of projects at Cleveland Clinic main campus and multiple regional hospitals. This project span a wide range of size and scope, including the Miller Heart and Vascular Institute, Taussig Cancer Center, Brethren Neurological Center, and Avon Hospital. He has also handled international projects in Vienna, Canada, Shanghai, Abu Dhabi, and London. A couple of years back, I came across to him when I was visiting Cleveland Clinic to get some understanding of how it is. There is a massive ocean, sea, I can tell you. And I have been taken by him around the oncology center, and I can tell you it was a great experience and learning from for me. So I felt today when he had this, we must invite him because he can share a lot of his experience, but in 15 minutes we may not know, but it is going to be a continuous relationship, and we may get blessed to have several of this kind of session to learn from him. So today he's going to talk about Cleveland Clinic hybrid operating room progression. And without further ado, I hand over to Randy, and thank you very much for joining, getting up at 4:30 early in the morning. That shows your commitment for a safe healthcare facility. So thank you very much. Over to Randy.
I am honored to be here, and I'm happy to get up early in the morning to spend time with lovely, smart people. Again, I am Randy Geise, and thank you very much for the kind words. Joy, yes, I've been here at the clinic for 24 years and have done many different projects. And when Joy asked me to speak, it was hard to come up with a one certain topic to cover in 15 minutes. So I'm not sure how all of this will fit into your patient safety, but happy to speak in the future of other things in particular. What I wanted to go through is, again, the progression of our operating rooms at the Cleveland Clinic, and more defined on the hybrid operating rooms. But just to give you a little bit of sense, actually yesterday was a big day for the Cleveland Clinic. We had our 100-year celebration. The clinic opened up in 1921. So last night we had a big watch party and a big a virtual presentation from the Cleveland Clinic about our 100-year anniversary, and I can maybe send you the link to that. But what I show here is back to our roots, and it's actually that's a postcard. I have a collection of Cleveland Clinic postcards, and that shows the original hospital that was built in 1924, and the operating theaters were up on the 7th floor of that building. They had windows to the outside and skylights above. This is a snapshot of the original blueprints from Ellerby Beckett out of St. Paul, Minnesota, who had done the drawings for this building. They did the clinic as well, but you can see the size of this room. So it was a very small surface there for actually the surgical procedures, but there were these viewing stands to the around, so people could stand and watch what was going on, windows to the outside, and I said above, skylights above. So that was how we got our start many years ago. Hybrid operating rooms mean many different things to many different people, but it's basically a surgical room that accommodates permanently installed imaging equipment, MRI, CT, or whatever, and whether it's biplane or single plane. So this kind of just gives an idea of what we're talking about today. I took this screenshot of information from our Facilities Guidelines Institute, the FGI, or the AIA documents that we have talked about in the past. Just gives a good kind of overview and simplification of what an imaging class 3 imaging room or hybrid operating room really means as far as the use, which means that there's physiological monitoring for life support. It's access from a semi-restricted area and gives a little bit of information on the total air changes per hour and the location of the sidewall returns, and then the information as to how the actual room is built for cleanliness. And to give you an idea of the progression, the clinics, one of our first, I guess, hybrid operating rooms was built in 1998. And this is on main campus. And this was a retrofit. This had been just a regular operating room. We took some space out of the core to build out a control room. And I'm just kind of giving you an idea of the square footage of these rooms. I should have maybe put these in square meters. I apologize for that, but I'm sure you can all make the transition of that. But anyways, so this would just give you an idea of adding a control room into a space that had not previously been there. Marymount Hospital, which is one of the 10 hospitals in our system around the Cleveland area, this was a new build out. And we thought that these rooms were, getting a little bit larger, and we had a more realistic layout for the control room and the equipment room. But this just gives you an idea of kind of the size of these rooms as we move forward. And a photo of that room at Marymount Hospital. We also then we have a 360-bed hospital in Abu Dhabi that opened up in 2016. And there we actually were able to do some, again, new build outs there, and gives you an idea of what that endovascular operating room or hybrid theater was there in Abu Dhabi. And this is a more recent, this is again another retrofit. We took an outpatient waiting area at one Fairview Hospital, which is again in the Cleveland area, and it just kind of shows not only is it just the surgical room itself, we have the scrub room, the control room, and the equipment room. And again, these things are getting bigger in size as we move forward with more equipment that's needed in these rooms. And coming soon to a hospital nearer to you, this is in London. This is a hospital that we are building adjacent to to Buckingham Palace. The address is 33 Grosvenor Place, right across from the Queen's backyard. And we have since that is in London and the cost of real estate is extremely high, we actually tried to squeeze as much as we can into that building. So this room is quite a bit smaller than the ones that we've seen in the past. However, we have fit out, and you can see this is a very recent photograph of the construction that's ongoing right now with all the infrastructure above in the ceiling. And on main campus, this is in the Glickman building, which is adjacent to the heart and vascular and actually tied into heart and vascular. So this is areas where we have our larger and more sophisticated hybrid operating rooms. these two operating rooms here, OR 76 and 77, were the first ones that we built, and that was in 2009. And we currently are working on plans to upgrade the equipment in those rooms. So they're a decade old, and so we're actually having to put quite a bit of money back into those rooms. And then these other operating rooms, which are the largest ones we have, OR 78 and 79, which were built in 2012. And then we just opened up these ORs 80 and 81 the last 2 years ago. And these, again, are some of the larger rooms that we have for hybrid operating rooms. Gives you kind of an idea of what these look like. Again, so the control room, and again, without any people and equipment in these rooms, they look very gracious. But when we talk about the size of these rooms, so again, we have this is OR 78 and 79, where we have a biplane and then the Zigo system in there. Just gives you an idea of the patient coming in on this side, staff coming in from the back with substerile control rooms and equipment rooms. And this room here is about 120 square meters. So of course, in the planning process, we always have to be aware of the budget that we have, the space, and the structure, and giving your administrative folks some idea of how long this is actually going to take. I mean, it took a year to design some of these rooms, because you're not just coordinating with the surgeons, but you have the anesthesiologists who play an amazing role in these rooms, along with the nurses and the techs. The equipment vendors are very instrumental in our design meetings. In AV, audiovisual integration doesn't sound like much, but with all the monitors, but there's a tremendous amount of money that goes into that. Infection prevention, and also including the facilities engineering folks that will need to maintain these after you've built them. So some of the key factors, again, are the size of these rooms. And we've also we have even given this concept of this is the imaging surgical bed, but we've also have it set up where we can do a non-imaging procedure in these rooms as well. And you can see the infrastructure that goes on in there. That just gives some idea of what we can do with more space in that room. And taking a look at what goes into the sizing of the room. So you have the patient zone, you have that surgical zone, and then the equipment that goes around it, and then the circulation. So again, it takes up quite a bit of real estate in these rooms. What we worked out with our architects and our engineers, we spent a lot of time doing mock-ups. This is a computer-generated mock-up of these two rooms. And we also then, as we got further into getting the design and the construction going, this is a McDonald's restaurant kind of layout of how to mock up his space. So we brought in and built out mock-ups as we move forward through the design and the construction. So we brought in, so this is Dr. Lars Spence and Dr. Bruce Lytle. We brought in everyone so they could get a feel for it, because not everyone, of course, can understand drawings and blueprints as well as others. We did a lot of 3D imaging, and then so part of with the space that you're giving, some of the things that we needed to look at is where the control room, whether it's at the foot of the bed or the side of the bed, there's some advantages and disadvantages for both of these with obstructions or shorter view distances. But so we considered all of this as we were working on the design. So that's a kind of that's this room because it's actually kind of angled towards the surgical bed. Gives you some indication of the Zigo system in motion. And then this is a photo of the last couple of operating rooms we did. This is ORs 80 and 81, kind of a panoramic view. And just note this stainless steel paneling that we have in this room. We upgraded to do that so we could have flexibility in the future. But again, these rooms look quite generous as we take these pictures, but without any equipment or personnel in it. The other thing that we wanted to take a look at is the support, because that imaging equipment is quite heavy, and so we have to make sure that when this is what we had. This is up on the 4th floor of one of our buildings to accommodate that floor load, and we had to put this mounting plate. And the difficulty of what we had here was this was over a 3-story atrium, so we had to. Much coordination went into the location of this equipment. And then there's the floor loading, but then there's everything that's in the ceiling. And there's this is what's so key with the vendors and all those that are having, you have your anesthesia booms, you have your surgical booms, you have your surgical lights, your shields, your monitors. With all of that going into this room, there's so much going on in that ceiling, and it's hard to make that all come together because, those are very expensive pieces of equipment, and we don't want them crashing into each other. This is the infrastructure. This is the unistrut that is in the ceiling above, and you can see the massive amount of steel that's up there to accommodate all of that weight. And one of the things that we've been looking at as well is this is a kind of a prefabricated plenum for air distribution, lights, and the sprinklers. All of that has to be coordinated, but we've been looking at some of this most recently. These are prefabricated boxes that go into the ceiling. I mentioned earlier about these stainless steel panels around the room, again, which was a premium, which we haven't, since they're relatively new, we haven't gone in yet to change them out. But had we done that previously in our operating rooms, it would help out in the future for going in and making modifications to any of the changes, and it also provides wall protection. The monitors, again, we have different vendors that we use for monitors, and a lot of that has to deal with the clarity of them, the size, the quantity, the cost, and the weight. And AV integration, which is all the monitors and the cameras, is something that we really have to coordinate because there is a tremendous amount of infrastructure that goes into that's not seen, but it's there's a lot of cost that goes into putting all of that conduit in there for the communication wiring to go in. Everybody's always interested about costs, and this is a snapshot of what our projects cost in US dollars, and it just kind of gives you an idea that these are very expensive rooms, and depending on where you're building them, the construction cost varies. The equipment costs are pretty that is depending on what kind of what you're putting into those rooms, that has some variability as well. So when we talk about what we're having to bid, we're running anywhere between $500 to $650 per square foot. That's just the construction of it. It's so dependent upon the infrastructure of what we have there, any of the code upgrades if you're doing something in a retrofit versus in a new build. We do a lot of terrazzo flooring, which that's our preference. And then definitely we want to make sure we have that floor-to-floor height of minimum of 16 feet there, so we can get all of that infrastructure up above. And of course, that just gives you an idea that no room is ever big enough. We have just so much equipment that goes into those rooms. And one of the things, I've got a little video here, but this is we call it the dance, because there's just so much. I'll show you a little bit of what goes on. So this is a video showing all of the personnel, the equipment that goes on in these rooms. So some of the lessons learned here is making sure that we plan for the future, and the above ceiling coordination is with the ductwork, the structure, the medical gas, the technology, electrical, all of that has to be coordinated. We're doing most all of our projects with BIM now, so we can see about the clashing, but the detail of that all has to be worked out. And then we certainly have, again, we're building some of these rooms over ICUs on the lower floors or below or above. So there's a lot of coordination with the spaces that are adjacent. And this gives some idea of, this is a snapshot of all of these rooms, but you can just, the rooms are getting much larger and larger as we move forward.
One question, what I want to ask you, I saw as a healthcare administrator, the project cost per square feet you gave $500 to $650 per square feet, and I know in Indian currency that comes close to 35,000 rupees, which is a heavy cost to sustain in terms of the budget. So my question to you is, when you do this kind of planning, do you get some sorts of cost benefit analysis or some sorts of things done, and you get some sorts of direction that within how much you need to maintain the project?
Yes, we do, Joy. And again, that's just construction costs, right? So that's compounded much more. I usually figure $1,000 a square foot. Just if anybody wants to know, because they'll ask you, right, how much is it going to cost? I always throw out $1,000 a square foot for anything. But so our heart and vascular tech HVI, they have business plans that they have a business model. They do all of that return on investment analysis on the front end, and they have to justify the cost to see if that actually they can make that profitable in the future. Yes.
Sir, actually, if you look at it, the hybrid theater, the supply return from the air conditioning system, the return generally is picked up from the lower level as in a normal super specialty theater. That is the same case with this hybrid also, is it not? But with so much, the return that goes back to the air handling units, that's picked up from the lower level.
Yeah, we have the low air returns on the periphery of the rooms, if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, exactly. But then the equipments are all over the place. So the circulation of air generally gets blocked because of the equipments which are on the video that you showed. So practically, you'll have a lot of issues with controlling the air contamination, controlling the temperatures and humidity at all point of time. So will it be a challenge for the engineers?
You're correct. We have so much equipment; those grills can be blocked. And relative humidity is another big factor that we have to accommodate for. And I can put you in touch with the engineering people that know so much more about that than I do. But yeah, that is always something that we have to be looking into.
Yeah, because that is a challenge all the time in all the theaters. How much ever bigger you do, whatever lessons you learn, but there is always this challenge still persisting.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy, for joining here today morning of yours, afternoon for us. And it was great listening to you. And thank you for taking time out and, organizing this.